We are recording
Recording in
with
progress.
Mr. James Koutoulas and, of course, Dave Collum, both who've been on here several times before, and they haven't met each other in person, but to be fair, I have met almost none of my guests in person. But for everybody listening, today is Monday, March 27th, 2023 at 6:04 p.m. Eastern Time. Guys, if you want to support the podcast, click on the little red button, join locals, promo code Tommy, you can get free shit. But yeah, so y'all have been following each other since '08, which I guess is kind of like going into World War II, remembering each other from World War One. Y'all are veterans of the...
It might have been 2011, but it's been a long time mutual Twitter following. So it's good to say, see your face, Dave, if not quite meet you.
Yeah, shave my ass, walk backwards.
Oh.
What?
That's the old phrase, shave your ass, walk backwards.
Fair enough. Sorry, I'm posting the live link. Yeah, so, I mean, James came on last week. We talked a little bit about SVB, and I think since that time, or 2 weeks ago, whenever he came on, I think Deutsche Bank is going down now, or has gone down. Is this...
Credit Suisse.
Yeah, Tom Luongo was just on here the other day, pretty much saying it's all fucked. Is it going to continue to just domino, or is there a savior, or are we just getting ready for, like, hey, we're going into '08 again, buckle up?
I'd say it's a coin flip at this stage, right? I mean, you've had basically the Fed has unwound about 50% of quantitative tightening and eased all of that liquidity back in the market. So for what it's worth, it seems the Fed is actually trying, to save the banking system and follow the playbook for the portions of '08 that worked. For example, with SVB, wipe out the stockholders, wipe out the bondholders, guarantee depositors, and sell the remaining assets to a bank that was less irresponsible. So that worked really well with Washington Mutual, back in '08. And I think one of the big problems in '08 was they really took like a roulette approach to each successive bank failure. There was no consistency. So it's like WAMU was the SVB playbook. And Bear Stearns was kind of similar, right? Like forcing a sale. Lehman, they're just like, just let Lehman go down. Who cares, right? And then they were forced to basically go back to not even a sale with Morgan Stanley and Goldman, and just did a straight bailout of them both directly. And actually, one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that Goldman, Morgan Stanley actually got the biggest bailout via the CDS guarantee of AIG, where they had the credit default swaps. They guaranteed them up to par, right? So like both of those banks got more money from the AIG credit default swap bailout that they did directly. And all I got to say is Morgan Stanley lucked out in terms of needing the bailout on the same day as Goldman did, because you had your ex-Goldman Treasury Secretary Hank Paulson was the one who went that way.
Dave?
And let us not forget that they essentially stole AIG, because this is what a lot of people don't know, or maybe it's wrong, but AIG's derivative group was legally cordoned off from AIG, the insurance company. And they basically rolled the two together and took them both, which is why Hank Greenberg actually sued the feds for the bailout. And I don't remember the outcome of that, but I think it was Stockman.
The feds and win. So I'm guessing he lost.
Yeah, I am too. But my understanding is that literally there was about a 15-man derivative group, and they were the source of the problem, and they were legally ring-fenced. But the Fed doesn't care about the whole legally part when push comes to shove. I'm a little concerned about sort of MF Global repeats going on here. I think that
we had FTX. That was MF Global part 2.
Well, I view that as a Ukrainian money laundering scheme. So that that's getting geopolitically very strange.
Yeah.
So I'm getting strange effects. I'm picking up little stuff like my credit card. They just lowered my credit limit, which is an interesting thing, because they said because you never reach it. And I remember back in '08, they were scrambling to lower credit limits left and right, because they wanted to lower the total amount of credit exposure, which I believe is either to protect against people grabbing a pile of credit, or maybe there was a legal argument for why you have to have a lower credit exposure. But so I have 20,000 on my credit card. I never carry a balance, and they want to drop it, and that tells me shit's happening. Bad things are going on behind the scenes.
They want to prevent people from grabbing it, because what people
That's
tend
right.
to do in situations like this is draw all your credit lines. Okay, because if you're dealing in a stressful systemic risk type environment, okay, even if you don't need the credit, if you got the line, take it, and then you got the cash, not the bank, right? By lowering your credit limit, they're preventing you and everybody else, from doing that. And that's sort of like a bank run, right? Like when everybody draws credit at the same time, the banks are forced to come up with that cash to pay out on those credit lines.
So what's different this time, I think, is
the last words of every crisis.
Right, I know. That's exactly right. Is they're boxed in by inflation now. So the heroic measures that they did before, it's not to say they can't do them again, but they're going to have a lot of splaining to do, as they say, because you say, okay, we're going to throw the currency under the bus now overtly, right? And the other thing I was wondering about, there's supposedly this massive mortgage-backed, credit out there, huge corporate debt. It doesn't look as frothy as it did in 07, 08, 09, right? Because you had all the 125% loans and stuff. So that just looks silly. Those like meme stocks of that era. But you also have huge real estate portfolios by guys like Blackstone and BlackRock, and they could decide they got to liquidate them. Is that a concern?
I mean, I think if we got to start worrying about BlackRock and Blackstone, who are systematically important financial institutions and, multi-trillion dollars and combined AUM, I mean, the whole system is
well, but what about if we're not worried about them, the companies, but rather the real estate liquidations? So they could dump their real estate portfolios, which I think are enormous.
I mean, they could conceivably. Strategically, I don't see that happening. I see them actually being distressed buyers here. But, normal people who, financing has not been easy since 08, unless you're a W-2 employee, making seven figures a year. I mean, I live in Miami Beach, which is, one of the frothiest real estate markets on earth, but with good reason, given like the tax, regulatory, and freedom advantages here, and just the massive economic growth we've seen here. And you've actually seen the luxury market accelerate through what's been happening, as people with excess cash are like, well, if I don't trust the banks, I'm going to buy luxury real estate. This is finally my catalyst to get out of New York or California or other high tax states, and paying up on the real estate is a one-time cost that they'll probably get back on resale, but then they get the annuitized benefits of living here, and that's not paying 14.6% or so incremental state plus city tax in either New York or California.
I mean, most expensive apartment in the world just went on sale in New York just in the last month or so, $250 million.
Good God!
It's like 131st
floor.
Bag
holder. I mean, New York has become, and it used to be my favorite place on earth, and it's just, I cringe every time I have to go there now.
They say half a billionaire's row is empty. It's just people holding or hiding assets.
Yeah, I mean, one of my buddies in London has a great quote about New York, and he's like, nowhere else on earth does such concentrated wealth tolerate living in abject squalor. That was before COVID. It's gotten worse.
Yeah.
It's really disgusting there compared to, South Florida. I mean, you can see why every sane business owner in America and even abroad is moving here.
New York Central Park Tower, the triplex penthouse, $250 million on the 131st floor. Yeah. And I think
you also have spiking crime and stuff too, right?
Oh, it's awful.
Well, I mean, and that building is probably, I think it's like bulletproof, and you're a quarter mile up, so they're fine.
No, but you still got to go out. No, you got to go out in the world though. So I was driving. I went to a hedge fund founders dinner last year, which I don't remember founding a hedge fund, but there I was. and I got run into by a bike gang, and I didn't know what was hitting me. And so all of a sudden, these guys are smashing up against my car.
Oh my
And
God.
I realized that that's the moment when I said you should have taken Spanish in high school. And I thought I must have driven into a road race or something, but it's just these kids who go out on the road and take over the road and won't give it back until they're ready. And they'll take over the West Side Highway. They'll take over. And I didn't realize how close I was to getting, yanked out of my car, beaten to a pile of crap, if they decided to, because it's kind of lawless a little bit there. And so I'm in no rush to go back.
Worse. I mean, I have 5 close friends who've been physically, violently assaulted there.
That's a lot of close friends.
Hellhole.
That's
a problem.
Yeah. Which
anyway, back to the banks.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit of the general decay of the blue cities.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah. Then, well, I mean, it is kind of interesting then. Well, if people are still buying those, is it that the people that are buying those penthouses are so beyond imagination in terms of wealth that it's whatever, they don't care what the depreciation is, and that they're not going to live in New York, they'll probably never set foot in there, they'll probably never go in the penthouse? Or could it be indicative that the banks are failing and people will still, despite the spikes in crime, will still buy those things up because it's their, like you said, about kind of a run on credit? Could this be a sort of run on physical real estates and assets?
Well, you definitely have money moving out of banks and into crypto, into real assets just over the last month, right? Like I think I saw something today saying like about 120 billion has left the regional banks, 67 billion has gone into the big four. Well, do the algebra, right? That leaves about 50 billion. Where's that going? And I mean, Bitcoin has done very well since this has happened. Real estate has definitely stayed strong in Miami, but if you look at stuff like New York, like why, there are people who do have long-term views that New York will come back. I'm not so sure if it'll ever, hit its previous pre-COVID highs, but if the money's coming out of China, if it's coming out of Venezuela, those buyers aren't just American, right? Yeah. So, if you're getting it somehow out of capital controls, or they're doing some kind of swap out of some, foreign account in order to buy it, people are willing to take big haircuts to get money out of some of these foreign banking regimes.
Dave?
Boy, I can't add much to that. I still think, though, that, again, the absence of froth this time is noticeable, the retail froth, but we just doubled the cost of a mortgage. And my understanding is that most people, when they go in to buy a house, the realtor says, okay, how much is your income? How much do you have? How much equity do you have? And here's what you can afford to buy. And if that number is now half of what it used to be, it seems to me we can't possibly avoid a real estate bust, residential real estate bust, for example.
Outside of the top end of the market, I think. I mean, one
thing. Yeah, top end is just this never land.
I mean, top end, you had 13 years of QE and then trillions of dollars worth of COVID stimulus, and that was all of it ultra concentrated in the top 1%. So you can't underestimate how much free cash the ultra rich have right now, and that includes like the Blackstones and the BlackRocks too, right? So one of the big, arguably terrible societal trends of the last 10 years is how much real estate nationwide has been bought up by the BlackRocks and Blackstones and their ilk, and that has become rental housing. And that's one of the reasons rents have soared so much too, is that people financing became so much more difficult post 08. And then you've got all this easy credit for institutional buyers to just buy the stuff up for almost no cost to carry, and then just keep jacking rents.
And when you say no cost to carry, I read somewhere Blackstone was getting its money at 0.15%. And so if you can,
no, sorry if I wasn't.
No. I know, but I think the average person might think no means 2%. It means no. It's basically, as you said, it means none. 0.15% is the cost of mailing and stuff like that. That's nothing. So
Could one of y'all, for knuckle draggers like me, could you guys just describe or define frothiness?
Because overall, it's like excess, right? It's just bubble economies. Like, when Bitcoin's at 60,000, like everybody and their brother is buying Lambos, right? And
Okay.
like,
So
Aquanauts were selling at 4 times retail. Like that's froth.
so then is that good that there's not as much pre-all frothiness as '08 for the peons like me who don't
Yeah,
understand this?
but we've seen a lot of froth as recently as last year, right? So I mean, the Fed hikes have, I think, cut off a lot of the froth outside of the super rich, but I mean, there's still a lot of froth. Like I was at the Palm Beach Boat Show this weekend, and there's a lot of yachts on sale at 50, 75 million, right? Like there's a lot of big money that's still being slung around, but
Yeah.
it's quiet.
Yeah. So then what is this, the calm before the storm? Is this kind of like a PTSD? A lot of people are fearful of '08, and it's that. I mean, and could that itself have a positive effect of people maybe kind of tiptoeing into this? Or is this more of a glaciers moving, like, yeah, once they start, they don't stop for anything. They'll bulldoze a mountain. Like, what is this?
Systematic risk, right? You look at some of the best indicators, and it's something like they've predicted 8 out of the last 5 collapses.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What are
So
the,
you
yeah.
have big warning signs, but every time those warning signs flash doesn't necessarily mean
What are,
you're going to collapse. But this is the fastest rates have ever been risen, right? And I think like in '08, you had everybody get caught by overreaching for the CDO paper that was packaged as double A, right? Even though it was really junk. This time it's this duration mismatch seems to be the common thread in all these bank failures. Yeah, and it's bad, and it looks pretty pervasive. And it looks like a lot of this was unhedged, and all these banks were counting on the Fed put, but the Fed has come out with the Fed put, and they've eased 50% of quantitative tightening back in, right? So the big question is that enough to stop it, right? I mean, Paul backed off the gas a little bit and only hiked 25 basis points instead of 50 last time. If they would have flipped to easing, right? Who knows? We could go back to all-time highs in equities, maybe, right? If people, because like macro traders have been begging for a Fed pivot now for like 6 months. So if you went back to easing, maybe it fixes everything. But I think what it's really going to come down to, what kind of Dave alluded to earlier, is the choice that now, since we're in this inflationary environment, do you save the dollar, or do you save the financial system? And the other, I think the third factor that we're seeing right now is just this attack on crypto, right? Like the SEC and CFTC, after they both let the fox in the henhouse with FTX, all of a sudden you're seeing massive enforcement action on every crypto firm everywhere in the world, right? And I think it's notable that a lot of these big bank failures were Coinbase on-ramps. And then right after you see Coinbase having to change banks 3 times in 2 weeks, that then they get served a Wells notice too. And then you've got the SEC not even telling them what securities that they allegedly have listed.
What's a Wells notice?
A Wells notice is the SEC saying that we intend to bring an enforcement action against you.
Gotcha.
Means you're screwed. You're screwed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's Mr. Carrigan. We'd like to talk to you. All right. Gotcha.
That's right. So when the FBI shows up on your doorstep.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And they say, "Can we talk to you?" And I say, "Absolutely not." Then how do we get out of this? Do you just absolutely destroy the dollar in the short term? Do you do some giant, domestic construction or something? Do you just let the collapse come, or do you just get out of it with a good old war? Do we just go, screw it? It's time to not to put on the geopolitical hat, but Dave, you're very good at this. Do you just kind of launder it through a war?
I think the Ukraine war is going to end soon.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about us going to war with China or some shit.
Well, they could go to war to hide what's happening.
That's what I mean.
My gut feeling on this is the third parameter is Fed is Powell's sense of legacy. And so he has to decide whether it wants to be Arthur Burns or Paul Volcker. And I just don't think it's wise to underestimate what some aging guy who's trying to decide whether to be the douchebag who let inflation get out of control, or the guy who served up the tough medicine and dealt with the inflation. And he has used the word pain too many times. When he was asked, for example, by one of the squad, Rashid Taleb or whatever, about the financing costs to the government by his high rates, he said, "It's not my problem." And he really said it that brutally. Yeah. It was a real screw you moment, in my opinion. I didn't think social media picked up on it. I thought that was a huge statement. He's going, that's on you guys. And to me, that was more, I'm not going to pivot language. And so I think Powell, it's been my theory all along that Powell was going to try to be Volcker.
Absolutely. And I've met both of them. I got to spend a lot of time with Paul Volcker, when in kind of his waning years. And I met Paul in 2017 at the IMF annual meetings, and Paul absolutely wants to be Volcker. I mean, that's what he views his role at. So if he has the choice, save the banks or break inflation, it's my view he's going to be hawkish.
And he's got quite some time back, Stephen Roach wrote an article that said that Powell's looking like Arthur Burns, and that has to sting. And then Summers jumped in and said the same thing. So I jumped in and started a three-way email with the two of them just to see if I could get something going. And they basically, Roach's response was that landing, a soft landing would be like trying to land on an aircraft carrier in a typhoon. That was Roach's analogy. So the question is Powell really ready for the pain? And if regional bank disturbances is considered pain, then people don't understand, right? The real pain hasn't even started in this process. We're not even close to the pain, right? Remember the implodometer, and every Friday you'd see this list of banks who are being swallowed. I would say that's the kind of pain that it won't be the same, of course, but that's the kind of pain I think we've got to go through. I think we got to go through the valley of death for Powell to achieve what he would like to achieve, I think.
Yeah, and then you've got the other, major societal factor is, I think, this administration desperately wants a central bank digital currency. They do not like criticism, and bank collapse and needed stimulus is the perfect Trojan horse for getting one. And I mean, from what I understand, it's ready to go. I mean, Treasury reached out to me personally in 2017 to talk about stable coins and whatnot, and I am by far not the leading expert on this stuff. So, I mean, they've been looking at this a long time. This administration has very much China-like tendencies. They hate criticism. They love authoritarianism. And I think the ability to freeze wealth for dissidents like Trudeau did about a year ago, mm-hmm. for who donated to the trucker convoy via GoFundMe, I think that's absolutely on the radar by the administration. So if they could, if they could stop inflation while simultaneously making people totally afraid of the banking system and using that as an excuse for, introducing a central bank digital currency, I mean, the chips are lined up pretty nice for that with the simultaneous attack on crypto.
But does Powell doesn't support the digital currency, does he? Or am I getting that wrong?
I mean, he's talked about it.
Well, yeah. The other sense I have, if I were Powell, I'm gonna walk around in Powell's shoes, and I'm trying to get control of inflation, and I'm trying to get control of asset bubbles, right? Because he definitely wants to terminate the Powell put, I think, right? I think he wants to blow this thing up, not necessarily in a messy way, but he would love to deflate this bubble, and he's achieved nothing with respect to that. I would be looking at Congress and the president and all the stupid crap they do and saying, you're not helping me at all. So your Ukraine exploits aren't helping. Your climate change initiatives that are masked as inflation fighting aren't helping me. And so my personal bias is that Powell has no love lost for the administration. I wouldn't if I were him. How's that? That's how I'd put it.
Well, we know what your views are, and I think all three of us are in line of our views on the administration.
Fair enough.
Well, but the administration includes Congress, right? These guys are spending like drunken sailors in a period when Powell. So I actually think our inflation problem is a government spending problem at this point. Now, guys who talk about inflation of yore always say that. Milton Friedman says that, right? Things like that. But now I think it's very real because Powell's doing quantitative tightening. And these guys are throwing hundreds of billions-dollar bills around the world. And that would just drive me nuts if I were Powell. I'm going, stop with the spending, guys. Stop with the handout. Stop with the free giveaway. Stop sending money to Ukraine. Forget about what it's for. Just stop, right? And
that was the big flip of Republicans post Reagan, is that they got on the free money trade too.
I know, totally.
And that's where people go with the uniparty, is that there is no fiscal conservative ism anymore, right? I mean, like George W. Bush spent an absolute fortune.
It's terrible.
Trump spent a fortune, but it was really, I think the two post-COVID stimulus, maybe like the first couple justifiable, but that last couple trillion that's just thrown out, the Build Back Better stuff. I mean, that really broke the camel's back.
Yeah, and real quick, I have to give James an out if he wants it. I know you said you had to run at 6:30. We can keep chatting if you want. I want to give you an out.
I could say another 7 minutes.
Okay. Then is this very simply, because as of this recording, March 27th, 2023, is there an out where you just go, I'm not running for re-election, peace? And
for Biden?
Yeah, and that's for now. If we're looking at personal, what do you care? I mean, just dip out. 2024, hey, I'm out of here. Take it. Somebody take it. I'm out.
I mean, Biden barely knows his own name.
He's obviously he's not. The guy's it's senility, and it's sad. I don't like him, but it's sad. I mean, in terms of
not senility. I mean, it's full blown dementia, right?
No, he's not there. He's not there. What I mean by Biden, at placeholder, the people in that administration, everyone. Do you just kind of go, hey, Biden's old, and they start saying things that everyone else has been saying for years? He's old, and maybe he's not all there, and we had a good run, 4 years, peace, and then you just take your Secret Service detail and get out.
Well, I mean, you've definitely seen some of the mainstream media turn on him in a kind of coordinated fashion between classified document scandal, Hunter. There was no criticism at all, right? And they've been laying the groundwork. It's just, I don't know who you replace him with. I think in the last primary poll, Michelle Obama was polling 7% as the number 2 behind Biden. So I think his puppet masters, all they care about is their power. They don't care about this poor guy with dementia. And don't get me wrong, he's a horrible human before he had dementia.
Oh, sure.
That still peaks out, right? But I mean, at this point, he's not calling any shots.
Yeah.
So I think, they're content to let him, be out there embarrassing himself and weakening the country as long as they get to keep power.
Well,
right? But
it's like in the military.
I just don't know how they win, a general with, if it's him versus Trump, they could play the anybody but Trump card again. I mean, all indications look like there was, mischief in the elections, albeit Trump's legal team did an awful job of, articulating that, or proving it. So I don't know if you see, more questionable voting practices, in the big cities. But I mean, the Dems, they don't look good in 2024, but they don't look good in 2022. And I mean, they did pretty well in the midterms by, whatever means.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like in the military where someone has to take the blame. And often, even if the person's innocent, but they died, that's the blame. You launder it, it's done. Are they just looking at it like, let Biden's the sponge, let him take it all, and then we go, hey, he's old, and you kind of wash your hands of it?
I think the Dems have two problems here. One is, besides not having a bench at all, and by the way, I'm seeing a pretty good bench for the Republicans. I'm starting to see names surface that I kind of like the looks of, even though we know they're douchebags.
Well, that's more of our problem. The Republicans have too good a bench, right?
Yeah, right.
So it's like they're already sniping and trying to destroy each other, where the Dems
right. But I also think, first of all, I think this presidential election cycle spike that people are hoping for, they're dreaming. I think this crisis that we're worried about is not going to wait for 2025. I think we are going to have one that's the mirror image of the normal election cycle, where it sort of spikes in the last year and a half leading in the election. I don't think they control at that level. Second of all, I don't think they want Biden out yet, because I don't think anyone wants Kamala being an incumbent. And if she becomes
Kamala is the only person who wants Kamala in the whole world.
That's right. But the problem is, if Biden had to step out now, she would be the incumbent, and that would pose a problem for the Democrats. So I think they want Biden to hang in there no matter what, so that she doesn't derive strength from having been president of the United States.
Yeah, so, I don't know who they're going to run in 24. And
Newsom.
One wants Hillary again, right?
Newsom.
It could be.
Newsom
is so awful.
I mean, God, he is awful.
He's awful.
It could be Newsom v. DeSantis.
It's like he's got good hair, I guess, but that's.
Oh, he's great looking.
He's awful.
He's a great looking guy. I mean, he's a demon incarnate, but I mean, great looking guy. I'll give it to him. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think they want him. I don't think they want Biden. I'd have to disagree with you, Dave. I think they are packing it all on him. They're putting everything on his credit card, and then they're saying he died, and there goes you just swallow the bill. That wasn't us. He's gone. Somebody else is coming in, and they could even rail on him.
Well, but it's a tricky swap, though, right? Unless they want to just hand over the whole thing to the Republicans and say, we'll get it next time.
I don't mean like incumbent Kamala. I mean they're both were done, and then some new face comes in from the left and goes, and then you could still pull the anything but orange man. And I guess you'll see how strong that sentiment is if the dollar's completely collapsed and you have a repeat of 08. Just how bad is orange man? We'll see how committed.
I'm not convinced Trump's running.
Completely collapsed narrative. Like, people have been looking at that since 2009, right? Talking about how QE would lead to the ultimate collapse. So as long as our military is serviceable, that's not going to happen, because that's what's really backing it. But I mean, the Biden administration has done a lot to weaken the military. I mean, the Afghan withdrawal is like unmitigated global embarrassment, right? I mean, the whole focus on trans flags rather than troop readiness. I mean, it's just.
I think we're starting. I think that the mask is falling off more and more, and I think everyone's starting to see that it all comes down to everyone's thinking the same thing. Well, military's still good, right?
The faith in all institutions has been weakened. Like, look at the CDC, right? Like,
everything.
Like in the 80s and 90s, people looked at like the CDC like they were like godlike messiah.
And the FDA, same thing.
Basically, all of the government has been exposed, right? But it's, they still, I mean, Trump has shown that, the deep state is absolutely real, right? Like, Elon has shown the collusion with Twitter for censorship of anybody who's against vax mandates. Right. So the concentrated power that Eisenhower warned about is there, it's real. And that's what they care about. They don't care about American strength. They care about staying in their own power. And, look, the Bidens have received, looks like hundreds of millions of dollars from China. Yeah. Right. So, they are intentionally, or whoever's pulling the strings there is intentionally weakening this country, and it's been sad to watch. So, to me, it all looks like they're trying to bring the West,
a controlled collapse.
We'll own nothing, be happy, have a CDBC, and we're eating bugs. I mean, like that. That's what they want, and we're speaking Chinese in 10 years.
Yeah. No, it's less and less absurd to assume that it's being defined, or being set up, and it's a controlled implosion. But in terms of kind of hoping the military is still giant, I think I think maybe, and this is me putting on the tinfoil, I think maybe we're starting to see the real power structure that's been there since Eisenhower, and it makes me think of this Frank Zappa quote. The illusion of freedom will continue as long as it's profitable to continue the illusion. At the point where the illusion becomes too expensive to maintain, they will just take down the scenery, they will pull back the curtains, they will move the tables and chairs out of the way, and you will see the brick wall at the back of the theater. I think
used that one.
I think we're starting to just see the machine for what it is. And it's like, hey, guys, it's not that it's in power. It's that you're starting to see what's been running the show since November 1963. It kind of seems like that.
And honestly, like, as the stuff gets exposed, like, the FBI collusion, Twitter, they're just like,
yeah, well, that's what I mean.
No one's getting charged.
That's right? What I mean, is because we're catching them. We're going, we got you. It's like I always use this example. It's like the first time I got caught drinking, and I got arrested, and my dad came and picked me up at 3 a.m, and I'm 17, and I'm trying to convince him that's the first time I've ever drank beer. And he's just looking at me like, do you think I'm fucking stupid? No, it's the first time he got caught, and I think that's what it is. Is they're getting caught, but they've been running this show for decades, and that's why they're just kind of like, because it's not new. It's not the first time.
Now they're pounding crypto. Like the CFTC just charged, Binance today. Like, I mean, it's fast and furious. All these enforcement actions, and my buddy Madison Cawthorn always says the government has a monopoly on two things: violence and money, right? And Canada has showed it's like, okay, let's get rid of the guns and let's seize the assets of people who donate to the opposition, right? And I mean, that's the commie playbook. We're not quite there yet, but if you're paying attention, that's what the stage has been set. So
they're showing us the brick wall.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard to fight back because the amount of stuff the government can throw at you if you piss them off is staggering.
Yeah. And the frequency, right? So you can start fighting them on something. You can get revved up, and within a week there's a whole new thing that's a colossal disaster.
A whole new psyop.
So Ukraine is a great sort of view under the skirt where you look at all the corruption involved in this whole Ukraine narrative, and one of the problems we have right now is we got a president who's so compromised that when he makes a decision that seems absurd, you know that there's a potential terrible conflict of interest there, right? That, but what they say, $6 million from China coming in the Biden family just in the 2 out of several hundred bank transactions that were considered sketchy. They haven't even scratched the surface of the Biden family bank transactions. $6 million.
Well, if I'm the intelligence community, I like that. I go, yeah, we
I
have
know,
blackmail on you, and now you're going to push through our agenda, or we're going to.
But so does China.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just looking at pure Machiavellian. If I'm looking at him, I'm looking at all the money from China. I'm going, good. We'll expose you for treason if you don't push through our defense spending bill or our whatever further erosion of civil liberties. So they probably like that, I would imagine.
Well, yeah.
Whatever. James is running for president next year, everybody. I want to break the news here first, and I'm looking forward to
James, who do you like for president?
Koutoulas Collum 2024.
That's a tough one. I mean, I like whoever wins the Republican primary.
Fair enough.
But how about Vivek Ramaswamy?
So I haven't met him yet or really talked to him. I've heard some good things, but I can't say I'm like educated on his
I don't trust him.
His positions.
He seems sneaky. He seems slippery. Just my personal opinion. Not that
he's saying the right stuff.
That's what I mean. He seems like an exaggerated Trump. Seems like somebody imitating Trump. I think he had a quote. He's like, China needs to know there's a new daddy in town. Who says that?
Yeah, but he's much more palatable than Trump.
Sure. No, sure.
I mean, populace, I'm
doing a podcast from my apartment. Like I'm not the don't defer to me for like an authoritative statement. I'm doing this shit on Zoom. Like
I think we're all doing podcasts from our apartment.
That's a good point.
I'm in my office. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, cool flex, Dave.
On that note,
yeah,
I'm gonna do the best thing for my health and go play some hockey. But I appreciate you having me on, and Dave.
It's great to meet you. Great to meet you.
Finally, like 12 years later. So
hey, man.
I do appreciate all the support during MF Global, man. It meant a lot to me.
Well, thank you, both of you, for coming on here. Guys, in the description, you'll have the links to their Twitters, their Instagrams, all the good stuff. Go follow them, check them out. They've both been on here before. Go find old podcasts. And, yeah, look forward to doing it again. It'd be fun to shoot the shit another time. And, gentlemen, thank you so much. James, thank you for staying for an extra 10 minutes. That was badass. Dave, till next time, brother. Thank you so much, guys. God bless. Stay safe out there.
Recording
Love each other.
stopped.
Peace.